Tom Riddle, his first year in Hogwarts. Chapter 4. The Dungeon. The summons arrived during breakfast. A single raven's feather that drifted onto Tom's plate with unsettling precision. Attached was a scrap of parchment in Walburga's sharp, aggressive script. Dungeons. After curfew. Do not be late. Tom's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with a cold, analytical dread. He knew that in the hierarchy of Slytherin, Walburga's invitations were mandates. That night, the castle was a skeleton of shifting shadows. Tom moved through the corridors like a ghost, his footsteps swallowed by the heavy stone. He found Walburga waiting near the entrance to the lower levels. She didn't speak. She simply turned and led him deeper into the bowels of Hogwarts. The air grew thick with the scent of saltpeter and ancient damp. They reached a heavy, iron-bound door. Walburga pushed it open, revealing a room that smelled of stagnant water and something musky, something reptilian. "Did you interfere with my experiment, Tom?" Walburga asked. Her voice was a silken thread in the dark. "I was studying," Tom replied, his voice a flat, rehearsed calm. He turned to leave, the oppressive weight of the room pressing against his lungs. He didn't see her wand move. Petrificus totalis. The spell hit Tom like a physical blow. His world froze. His joints locked into unyielding stone, and he crashed to the floor, paralyzed. Walburga didn't leave. Instead, she stepped back into the doorway, leaning against the frame with a casual, predatory grace. She wanted to watch. "I don't like liars, Tom," she whispered, "and I certainly don't like muggles who think they can hide secrets from a black." She flicked her wand toward a dark grate in the floor. A mechanical clack echoed, and then the sound began, a low, rhythmic hiss. Tom's mind screamed against the paralysis. Then the smell intensified. The foul, heavy scent of scales. A shadow detached itself from the corner. A viper, its triangular head swaying, slithered toward him. Walburga watched from the door, her eyes wide with a sick kind of curiosity. She expected a muffled scream, a struggle. Instead, Tom's heart hammered against his ribs, and he focused. He didn't speak with his throat. He spoke with his soul. To Walburga, it sounded like a low, vibrating hum. "Go away." The viper recoiled as if struck. It tilted its head, its forked tongue tasting the air. To Walburga's utter shock, the snake didn't strike. It bowed. "What are you doing?" she breathed. Stepping further into the room, her composure finally cracking. "Strike him! Why won't you strike?" From the cracks in the masonry, a dozen more appeared, swarming. Walburga panicked. She hadn't expected the sheer volume of them. She raised her wand to curse the nest, but the movement only agitated them. The vipers turned from the paralyzed Tom and lunged toward her. "Walburga! Tom!" The shout came from the corridor. Abraxas Malfoy burst into the room, his face a mask of horror. He saw the vipers leaping for Walburga and let out a strangled cry. The commotion, the shouting, the crashing of Abraxas against the door was what finally drew the attention of the night patrol. Tom felt the paralysis break under the sheer force of his adrenaline. He sat up, his voice finally finding its way through the sibilant darkness. "Stay!" The word tore from Tom's throat, a guttural command that sounded like tearing silk. The snakes froze mid-air, falling back to the stone like discarded ropes. Abraxas froze. Walburga, trembling, stared at Tom as if seeing a monster for the first time. "What in the name of Merlin is going on here?" The voice boomed from the doorway. Professor Slughorn stood there, his lantern swinging wildly, his face an uncharacteristic shade of pale. He had clearly been alerted by Abraxas's panicked shouting in the hallway. He took in the scene. the half-paralyzed boy, the shaking girl, and the nest of vipers that seemed to be waiting for Tom's next breath. "Professor?" Abraxas stammered. Slughorn didn't look at Abraxas. His eyes were locked on Tom. He had heard that last sound. He knew that wasn't a normal incantation. "Mr. Riddle," he whispered, his voice laced with a terrifying curiosity. "Did you just command them?" Professor Slughorn did not offer them tea. The fire in his office crackled with an aggressive heat, casting long, distorted shadows across the walls, lined with shimmering potion vials and preserved creature parts. Slughorn himself sat behind his massive mahogany desk, his usual jovial mask replaced by a heavy, sweating anxiety. He poured a finger of amber liquid into a crystal glass, his hand trembling just enough to make the glass clink against the decanter. The silence was a weight. Walburga stood by the door, her chin held high but her fingers nervously pleating the fabric of her robes. Abraxas hovered near the bookshelves, his aristocratic poise shattered. Tom sat in the center, his hands folded neatly in his lap, the picture of a victim, yet the calmest person in the room. "Black," Slughorn began, his voice surprisingly sharp. He didn't look at her. "To think a daughter of your house would stoop to such primitive bullying, using a petrificus charm to trap a fellow student in a pit of vipers? If the headmaster heard of this, your family's name would be dragged through the mud before sunrise." Walburga opened her mouth to protest, but Slughorn cut her off with a flick of his hand. "Malfoy," he turned his gaze to Abraxas, "your presence is equally galling. I expect leadership from you, not participation in midnight brawls in the lower levels." "I was only trying to stop it, Professor," Abraxas stammered. "I heard the noise and yet you were out of bounds, Malfoy," Slughorn snapped. "The rules apply even to those with your connections." Finally, Slughorn's eyes settled on Tom. The anger in the professor's face drained away, replaced by a look that sent a chill through Tom's chest. It was the look of a man staring at a beautiful, poisonous flower. "Riddle," he whispered. Tom looked up, his expression a mask of wide-eyed innocence. "Yes, Professor?" Slughorn leaned forward, the firelight reflecting in his bulging eyes. "Black claims you spoke to them. She claims you didn't just fend them off. She claims you commanded them." The room grew so quiet that Tom could hear the muffled ticking of a clock in the corner. "I was terrified, sir," Tom said, his voice soft, melodic, and perfectly controlled. "I don't know what happened. I was simply praying for them to stop. I might have made some noise. A gasp, perhaps." Slughorn studied him. He wanted to believe the lie. It was safer to believe the lie. But he was a master of his house. He knew the legends of Salazar Slytherin. He knew what he had heard in that dungeon. It wasn't a gasp. It was an authority. "A gasp," Slughorn repeated, his voice trailing off. He took a long sip of his drink. "A rare gift, Riddle, if it is what Black describes. It is a gift that can lead a boy to great heights or to a very deep, very dark hole." He stood up, the chair scraping harshly against the stone floor. "Since you three find the dark so fascinating, you shall spend your time in the light," Slughorn declared, regaining a bit of his professional bluster. "For the next week, you will report to Professor Greenwell in the pumpkin patches. Manual labor, no magic, no wands. You will assist the Gryffindor boy Hagrid in the pumpkin patches. With the Halloween harvest, perhaps the honest dirt of the earth will scrub these unhealthy interests from your minds." Slughorn pointed toward the door. "Black, Malfoy, out. Riddle, stay a moment." Walburga shot Tom a look of pure, unadulterated venom as she swept out of the room. Abraxas followed, looking back at Tom with a mixture of pity and awe. Once the door thudded shut, Slughorn didn't speak. He simply stared at Tom, as if trying to see the soul beneath the skin. "Be careful, Riddle," Slughorn said softly. "The world is watching you, and some of us, we see more than others." The October air was a whetted blade, carving through Tom's thin school robes. Every breath he took bloomed in a pale cloud before his face, vanishing into the gray morning mist. The damp earth of the pumpkin patch was unforgiving, clinging to his boots in thick, heavy clods that made every step a struggle. "This is an indignity," Walburga hissed. She stood over a particularly bloated pumpkin, her expensive dragon hide gloves already ruined by the soil. "Manual labor. Like muggles." "Careful, Black," Abraxas grunted. He was attempting to heave a large gourd into a wooden crate. His face flushed, and his hair, usually a silver silk, plastered to his forehead with sweat. "If Professor Greenwell hears you, she'll have us scrubbing the owlery next. Without magic, remember?" Tom remained silent. He worked with a cold, mechanical precision, testing the weight of the pumpkins before rolling them toward the crates. His muscles ached, a foreign, dull throb, but he found a strange satisfaction in the repetition. It reminded him of the orphanage, of the chores he had done to prove he was better than the other boys. Move it, you lot! These aren't going to carry themselves to the Great Hall." A shadow fell over them, immense and broad. Rubeus Hagrid approached, his massive boots sinking inches into the mud with every step. Even at this age, the Gryffindor boy was a giant among children, his shoulders twice as wide as Abraxas's. He carried 2 enormous pumpkins, one under each arm, as if they were nothing more than apples. "All right there, Riddle. Malfoy," Hagrid rumbled, his voice like the low vibration of a distant storm. He set the pumpkins down with a heavy thud that vibrated through the ground. Walburga recoiled, pulling her robes tight. "Watch the mud, you oaf!" Hagrid didn't seem to hear her, or perhaps he was simply used to her tone. He wiped a streak of dirt across his forehead, leaving a dark smear. Perched on his shoulder, half hidden by his wild, tangled hair, was a tiny, shimmering creature. It looked like a mouse, but its wings were iridescent, humming with the frantic speed of a dragonfly. "Beautiful, isn't he?" Hagrid whispered, his rough features softening. He reached up with a finger the size of a sausage to stroke the creature's head. "Found him with a broken wing near the Forbidden Forest. He's a flittermouse. Rare they are. Don't tell Greenwell, though. She says creatures in the patch are a distraction." Tom stopped his work, his gaze fixed on the tiny, vibrating animal. "Why keep something so fragile, Hagrid?" Tom asked, his voice melodic and sharp. "It has no power. It cannot protect you. It simply exists." Hagrid blinked, his large, dark eyes reflecting a simple, honest kindness that Tom found utterly baffling. "Suppose he doesn't need to be powerful, Riddle. Just needs a bit of care. Not everything in this world is a weapon." Tom's eyes narrowed. "In my experience, Hagrid, things that aren't weapons tend to get crushed." A silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant caw of a crow. Abraxas and Walburga watched the exchange, one with curiosity, the other with blatant disgust. Hagrid leaned in a little closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Say, I heard what happened in the dungeons, about the Vipers. Folks are saying you've got away with them." Tom's face became a mask of stone. "Folks talk too much." "I only ask," Hagrid continued, undeterred, "'cause I found one yesterday, deep in the woods. A funny-looking thing it is, silver scales and eyes like rubies. He won't eat, and he keeps making this sound like he's grieving. Thought maybe you could tell me what he's after." Tom felt a jolt of electricity run down his spine. A silver snake, rare, ancient. "Where is it, Hagrid?" Tom asked, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous silk. Before Hagrid could answer, the sharp trill of a whistle pierced the air. Professor Greenwell was waving them in from the edge of the patch. "Back to the castle, everyone. Clean yourselves up for lunch." Hagrid sighed, patting the Flittermouse on his shoulder. "Best be going, but think on it, Riddle. The little fella's in a bad way. I'll be by the hut later if you're curious." As Hagrid lumbered away, Walburga stepped up beside Tom, her dark eyes flashing with suspicion. "Don't tell me you're going to help that half-breed, Tom. It's beneath you." Tom didn't look at her. He watched Hagrid's massive silhouette disappear into the mist. "Power comes in many forms, Walburga," he murmured. "And sometimes it's hidden in the places no one else thinks to look."